Hi, welcome to Sean's Kitchen. For today's recipe, I'm going to start off by first taking 500 grams of boneless chicken, to which here I'm then going to add 3 tablespoons of curd. Along with that, here I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of red chilli powder, 2.5 tablespoons of ginger garlic paste, 1.5 teaspoon of salt, and lastly 2 teaspoons of lime juice. After adding all of these ingredients, I'm now going to mix all of this really well, and once I'm done mixing all of this really well, I'm going to keep it aside for marination for a period of 2 hours. I'm going to then take a pan and add 1.5 tablespoon of butter, and after that I'm going to let this butter melt on low flame. Once all of the butter has melted, here I'm then going to add the marinated piece of the chicken which I kept aside earlier. Once you're done adding all of the marinated piece of the chicken, you can let this cook for a period of 8 minutes on medium flame. After 8 minutes, you can now remove the piece of the chicken while letting the gravy continue to simmer in the pan. Once you've removed all the pieces of the chicken, you can now let this gravy continue to simmer until the time it becomes thick. After that, here you can add 3 green cardamoms and let it cook for 45 seconds. After 45 seconds, here you can then add 2 medium-sized finely chopped onions to the pan. After adding the medium-sized onions, you can let this cook for a period of 5 minutes along with the gravy. It's been 5 minutes now, and after frying the onions, I'm now going to add 3 medium-sized tomatoes to the pan. After adding the tomatoes, I'm now going to mix this really well with the rest of the ingredients and fry this until the time the tomatoes have become soft. This should take about 3 to 4 minutes. Once all of the tomatoes have become soft, here I've added 12 cashew nuts to the pan. After adding the cashew nuts, I'm now going to mix this really well with the rest of the ingredients and fry it for another 1 minute. After that, here I'm going to be adding half a cup of water. After adding the water, you can now thoroughly mix this with the rest of the ingredients. After that, here you can then add dry spices, starting off with 1.5 teaspoon of garam masala powder, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and lastly 1 teaspoon of red chilli powder. After adding these spices, you can now mix this really well with the tomatoes and the rest of the ingredients. Along with these ingredients, here I've also added 1 tablespoon of butter and 3/4 teaspoon of vinegar. After adding these 2 ingredients, you can now mix this really well with the rest of the dish. Once the butter has melted, you can then switch off the flame and let this entire dish cool down, and once it does, you can then grind this into a puree, and after that, you can lastly strain it through a strainer. Well, then in the very same pan, here I'm going to be adding the puree which you just ground and strained earlier, and along with that, here I'm also going to be adding the chicken which you had kept aside earlier on. After adding all the pieces of the chicken, you can now mix this really well and let this cook for another 4 minutes. After that, here I'm going to be adding about 1 teaspoon of crushed kasuri methi or fenugreek leaves. And after adding all of the kasuri methi, you can now mix this really well with the rest of the ingredients and let this cook for another 2 minutes. And after that, here you can lastly add 1 tablespoon of fresh cream. After adding the fresh cream, your dish is now ready to be served. So I really hope you did enjoy this recipe, and if you did, please don't forget to click on the like button and also to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.